I'd like to call to order the Peabody Planning Board meeting, agenda for Thursday, June 16th, 2022, held around 7 p.m. at the Lower Conference Room, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. At this time, I'd like to suspend the regular meeting and continue with the public hearing of definitive subdivision Stonegate.
So how this works, you can actually stand where Tom is if you want, and then I have the plans. Is it the same plans as the last time? You want to pull those back up, or?
You don't have to.
Okay.
It's going to be very brief tonight.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give the board a quick update. For the record, Dr. Sporagis, civil engineer with the Office of Williams and Sporagis, Middleton. And also here tonight is the project attorney, Jeff Selfie, if there are any legal questions. We did our presentation to the board at the last meeting. We informed the board that we had received peer review comments from Meridian Associates and comments from DPS, Will Politz. We sat down with Mr. Politz and went through the comments just to make sure that we understood exactly the meaning of some of the questions that he had asked, and we've been working very diligently addressing those comments and revising the plans. We are close to completing the plan work, and now I'm working on the written responses to the comments, and we expect to have those back to the city sometime next week. And then I expect that we'll need some time and to review those before we come back to see you again on July 7th. You may recall that a couple of abutters spoke at the last meeting that expressed some concerns with regard to the ongoing construction and tree clearing and various other issues. Mr. DiBiase and his team at Peabody Living did reach out to the folks that spoke at the last meeting. They met and discussed their concerns, and they're working together to address those concerns. And just by coincidence, I was talking to somebody in the crowd here. I think at least one of the couples is here tonight in the crowd. So that's the end of my update for the board, but we look forward to coming to see you again next month.
So if it's necessary for us to give you a continuance, we're happy to do so. Or we would, in the alternative, respectfully ask that the matter be continued.
Yeah, I guess it's either do you want to vote or do you want it continued? So I would recommend that the board ask for a continuance from the applicant.
What is our time to act?
We've already heard it, and we've since asked for a continuance at the last meeting, so we are within that time. But if you do not take a vote to continue it tonight, then you would have X amount of time. So are you asking?
Yes, I am. Respectfully, I'm asking.
Including the public hearing?
I would recommend that the board keep the public hearing open. It does sound like the plans potentially could change slightly, and so I would say that you might wish to leave the public hearing open in case they do for more public comment on them, at which point they're finished.
Okay, since this is the continuance of the public hearing, again, is there anyone who has any additional questions from the board?
I have one. I wasn't here, so I don't know if this question was asked. I'm just kind of curious about the dispensation of parcel B.
So that's the remaining land.
Yes, that's the remaining land of Mr. Innes, and we are trying to work with the Department of Public Services to determine whether or not Innes Road, as it crosses over the condominium complex, if that's a public way. We believe that it is. I think there's a lot of evidence that it is. That question has been posed to city solicitor and to the Public Services Department as to tying into the hydrant there with public water. And if and when that question gets responded to, we're likely to come back with a 3-lot subdivision.
I am in 100% agreement that it is public because of knowledge I have of the goings on when that was built.
Yep.
So I'm in agreement with that. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing no other questions from the board. Anyone who was not present at the last meeting that would like to speak in favor of this? Hearing none, anyone here that was not present in the last meeting that would like to speak in opposition or have any comments to the board? Hearing none, we'll accept the motion to continue.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board continue the public hearing on the Stonegate subdivision to our next meeting, which I believe is July 7th, 2022.
I would just add and grant a continuance to the applicant.
Grant the continuance to the app.
And grant a continuance to the applicant.
All those in favor?
What
A
date?
second?
July
A
7th.
second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
All right, now we'll return to the regular meeting, approval of the minutes of the meetings of May 19th and June 2nd. Are they
I put
completed?
I'm one behind, so I had the May 19th meeting minutes in there. I put those in earlier this week. I don't know if everybody reviewed them or not. I can have all three sets for the July 7th if you want to just push this one off if people weren't able to review the May 19th ones yet.
Okay, we will move that requirement to the next meeting. A&Rs in Land Court, 41 Lake Street, map 33, lot 71B and 71A.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have copies here of the plan. This is an A&R. There's only 4 copies, but I can.
Judy and I can share this little.
I
one.
can put one on the
Doesn't
screen.
one need to be signed? if-
One, I
if
have
it's
that.
approved, okay.
Yeah, I have that. Do you want a hard copy?
Yeah, I'll
Dennis?
take it.
Here,
There's-
pass it on. I'll put it on the screen as well.
I don't know if this has,
You want the big one?
has any relevance, but the verbiage that's in here is erroneous. There's mistakes. There's mistakes in the verbiage here. It's not
Well, yeah. hold on.
okay
In which you're at, or?
in the ad.
Oh.
And the notes are a bit confusing. I know what's going on and it's pretty obvious
Not
what's
really.
going on here.
Yeah.
So, because this chunk gets
Yeah,
taken out.
I'm John Kelty and I represent the
Yeah,
New
that's a lot.
Covenant Church. And we have applied for approval of an A&R plan. The plan has been drawn by David Terenzoni. That plan depicts land owned by the church. And this is really a re-subdivision in order for us to yield lots that are in conformity with the zoning in that particular zoning district, which is R1. The assessors, all we're really doing is changing the way the assessors lots and the assessors have these matters of record. Lot D2 has parking on it that will continue to be utilized by the church, and we will be creating lots D1, C4, and C3. C3 will have its frontage on Penny Lane. D2 will be annexed with the church itself, and D1 has frontage on Lake Street, as well as C4 has frontage on Lake Street. I guess I'm hungry. And I think that I've supplied copies of the deeds for these properties in accordance with the regulation, and as such, we're happy to answer any questions, or I'm happy to answer questions that the board may have, in as much as I'm alone.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
So just to be clear, the lot, the 40,000 plus lot that currently exists, that's the most southerly, furthest away from the church.
C4.
Well, no,
That
that's,
currently exists.
no, it does not exist.
Okay.
What exists is
correct.
one contiguous front to back lot
That's correct.
that had some other definition is being cut.
C4 and C3 are
Used
one
to-
lot with a different sideline.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, so,
So
okay, yeah, so
essentially,
that
there
is-
was lot A, and then there
oh,
were 2
A
lots.
and B.
Yeah.
A and B, okay, so that lot's being cut into 2.
Yeah.
Right? And then this other lot is being cut into 2, but
One will
one
not
of the
have-
back piece of that, which really has no frontage on any public street,
That's correct.
is going with the church.
That's
Right,
correct.
that's not what this says, that's all.
I read off the whatever
Oh.
he has here.
Okay, yep, so, all right, that's, I think that's all. Oh, I think we should, if this, does this come under the subdivision
That's what he's trying to.
rules? Or no?
No.
No, because it's already two lots, so
No,
you're only
it wasn't
cutting one
because
into
I'm
two.
Showing lots, all of which have,
Right, so you don't
area
need to
frontage on
create
the public
frontage
way.
with a new public way.
Well, I guess to your point, it's, you guys are both correct. The whole point of the approval not required is Jack is saying, Attorney Kelty is saying that he believes that this does not constitute a subdivision.
Right,
So that
but
the
if-
board then gets to decide if they believe this should fall under
Right,
subdivision
if this,
control or
if
not.
this square was one big lot and you were cutting it into three, then it might be considered a subdivision, but I thought if you
No,
just
not
take
if they
one
would
into
have-
two?
No.
No?
we
no,
have to-
no, it has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the number of lots. It's whether they have the area in frontage on
Frontage,
a
okay.
public way.
So I would,
This is the way they're currently lined, so you're correct that.
Right.
They were two lots plus the big lot.
right, so I'd like to include when we make the motion to exempt them from the underground utilities clause, because it's all overhead. Is overhead on Penny Lane, overhead wiring, so telephone, electric, cable TV, fire alarm on Penny Lane and Lake Street. And it really doesn't make any logical sense to try to force somebody to do underground utilities when there's overhead utilities there now.
Right, but we never do we?
Well, we do, and it's a full-fledged
In the
subdivision where you
subdivision
create
Definitive plan, yes.
a public road, so.
I guess my one concern would be, would we put this on the Mylar that gets signed and then recorded,
I
or
Would prefer not.
No,
do we just put it with a motion sheet? And then I
Motion
send
Yeah,
that to the
yeah, yeah,
building
yeah.
More
department?
than adequate.
yeah,
Do you mind making the motion then, and then saying what you said, if there's a motion made, just so I can have that?
well, if I'm gonna read
If there's
this, then
no
I
other
need to fix
questions
it.
From the board.
The discussion continue, I'm sorry, I was
I have a
fixing something
question.
on my computer when you
Yes,
said
ma'am.
what you said.
The
Where's that?
The
drawing
Form A
he's got here?
application says
Can you
lot
take
C,
it back?
SC30. I think it means C3, right?
Yes.
As required area and frontage on the lake, a public way, and I'm looking at C3 and I don't see it.
C3 is on Penny.
Three and
Oh,
C4.
it says lake here, that's a mistake.
Oh,
C4 is on like,
Yeah, I can see them from the plan, but the application says that
D1.
You want me to-
SC3, no.
I mean, I can amend it by hand if you like.
I think the plan speaks for itself when we're voting on the plan, not the application.
I guess just to confirm right now, to clarify, there's currently existing 2 lots, and then you're creating 4 lots, 3 of which will be buildable and 1 of which will be parking for the existing church.
It's actually 3 lots.
Creating three.
Creating 3, yes, okay.
Yeah, but existing is 3.
Okay. Okay.
See, this goes through, this goes through on that.
Okay, I was sorry. I was just, because this is becoming
moved
part
the
of,
lines.
that's becoming part of this, right?
That's correct.
All right, so I guess that existing, right, yes. Yeah. But for the sake of chopping up lots, there's 2 existing lots that are being chopped up.
any other questions from the board or comments? At this time, I'll accept the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the subdivision of land plan created for Community Covenant Church, 41 Lake Street by David P. Terenzoni, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, dated May 20, 2022, where
I
it,
think you're done.
well, we usually read what happens
I
here.
know, but I
So
really
where,
think that's
where
unnecessary.
lot 071B is. No, that's
It's
not
easier just to say which goes
Yeah.
on which.
Yeah,
street.
so creating a lot, a 20,004 square foot lot labeled Lot C3 with frontage on Penny Lane. Creating another lot labeled C4, 20,006 square feet with frontage on Lake Street. A third lot labeled D1, 20,000 square feet exactly with frontage on Lake Street. and a fourth lot labeled D2, which will be combined with the church property Lot A.
And you wanna add your.
Oh, and that we add that we exempt this subdivision of creating 3 house lots from the
Recommends no
underground
requirement. for-
underground utilities clause.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. let me see.
Waiting for Zoom.
Joe raised his hand. So
Yeah,
I'll
Joe
stop.
Joe raised his hand.
Joe raised his hand.
Unanimous, thank you. Mr. Costa.
Before
Thank
you,
you.
let me have, Tom, can you sign, this is the Mylar, so I'll hand this to you, Jack.
Do you have a pen?
I do have a pen.
At least. Good for the church.
Maybe they'll renovate it or something. A lot of land.
The 16th,
May 16th, right?
June 16th.
June 16th.
This was not here, so we must not be talking about that.
And then this one's for our record.
This gentleman's here.
What's this?
What's this? Oh, that's it?
Do you have one?
I have one.
I have it.
So what do you want?
No. That was the way I'm confused. For the planning board?
Next item on the agenda, section C, site building permit plan review for 190R Newbury Street, map 35, lot 038A.
John Kelty for the applicant. That matter is in peer review, and we'll be back to the board once we're through peer review. I'm hopeful that'll be before your next meeting, July 7th.
You asking for a continuance?
To the extent, do we have constructive approval on site plan review? No.
Okay. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Next
That's the
order
thing
of
we should put
business
into
is
the
29 Newbury Street, map 88, lot 004.
Mr. Chairman, just before you continue, point of note here, at the last meeting, we had mentioned that there was a memo from the Department of Public Services. They had sent that over to Mr. Sparagus. You guys had that memo dated 6/9. Yep. Mr. Sparagus, this evening had emailed back 2 responses to that letter. I put them both in your packets, but I also just have hard copies here. This is a late ad. The board can vote to accept or not. Mr. Sparagus is also here to present. I have spoken with Bob Langley from the Department of Public Services. You was not able to go through and review this letter yet and provide comment on it. I think let me pass this out to everybody first. There's 2 different ones here, so let's pass this one first. I think the biggest point that you'll see there that's needed still is a meeting with the Department of Environmental Protection to discuss the stormwater. So Mr. Sparagus is here. This would be considered a late ad. We did just receive this evening. And we did not receive yet a response to these questions from Department of Public Services.
We can share.
Printed out 5, I believe so.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Joe, this letter that I'm referring to is in your packets. I did place it in the online packet if you want to follow along online.
These look like the same letter. Oh, no, they're not. But they're dated the same day.
They both came today.
Okay.
There's 2 responses. Chris would probably explain much better
You
than I
want a
can.
motion to accept both these late ads?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. You may present now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Sparagus from the Engineering and Survey Office of Williams and Sparagus. In my email to Andrew earlier, I apologize apologize, but I did want to get them out to you, as soon as they were completed. There are two comment letters because one responds to comments from the Director of Engineering. He sent a memo back on May 18th where he outlined 9 items that he wanted us to address. And then the second letter that I wrote was to address comments that the Community Development and Planning Office submitted when they gave you some information about our application before we presented before you the first time. And there were also some comments made at the Construction Review Committee meeting by Andrew, and I wanted to just memorialize them and then explain how we addressed each of them. So what we did is revise the plan to address.
I have this plan right here. I'll share.
Sure.
I'll share this on my screen as well for everybody to see.
Again, just to familiarize yourself again, this is
You in trouble, Steve?
a heading Route 1 North, right before the 128 overpass. This is Route 1 heading northbound, and Brothers Cucina used to be over here across
Sorry,
this,
sir.
stripway.
I'm a little old and I'm a little hard of hearing. If you can speak up just a little.
Sure, I'm sorry. So Route 1 North and just south of the 128 overpass, across the highway from us is Suntog Lake. And then just to the south is where Brothers Cucina used to be. And then we have a stripway and then that other property that you're familiar with out back. This is our existing conditions plan. We did not have any changes to the existing conditions plan. This is our proposed layout plan. Andrew commented at our construction review meeting that we had an extra parking space shown out here, and it was pretty close to the right of way of the highway. There was a fear that maybe the turning movements might not be the safest, so we eliminated that one parking spot. But we still have 49 parking spaces where 30 are required by zoning, so that one didn't really matter. We also, on this plan, revegetated or show a proposed revegetation of the landscape strip that's in front of the property. So that was another comment from the planning office, and this allows us to beautify or rebuild that landscape strip with 28 dwarf English boxwoods. I think that'll look very nice along the frontage there. Andrew also asked us about the need for a mass highway access permit. One of the comments from the Director of Engineering was that he wanted us to replace the water and sewer services with new water and sewer service pipes. And we are proposing to do that. This is roughly where the existing water service is and the existing sewer service, and we're going to replace both of them. And because we're going to go out into the highway to do this work, we are going to need a highway access permit. And as is the practice of Mass DOT, they want us to secure local approval first, make sure that all that's all tightened up before we apply to them. So we will need a highway access permit for that work. Of course, this project also needs a special permit from the City Council because we are working in the surface water protection area. That's the 400-foot setback from Suntog Lake because Suntog Lake is a public water supply. And it comes onto our property all the way to here. So almost all of it is that. So we'll be appearing before the City Council after we complete our work with this board. There was also a question about an existing trailer that Andrew pointed out was not on the subject property, and it's encroaching on a abutting property. So we've simply stated that we're gonna take it out of there and remove that from the abutting property. For Mr. Langley's comments, I'll just run through them very quickly. We've added replacements for the sewer and water services. Mr. Langley also asked us to make sure that these are inspected by staff from DPS before the trench is backfilled. So we added a note to the drawing that says that they're to be inspected before they're backfilled. He also asked us to make sure that the water main is chlorinated and pressure tested. And that also needs to be, those reports need to be submitted to DPS for review before we can start using that line. So we added a note to the drawing to memorialize that. And he also asked us to make sure that our sewer pipe, when it's constructed, is watertight, and for the contractor to test it and supply that information to the GPS for review before we start using it. So we added a note to memorialize that right on the plan. He also asked us to do an updated hydrant flow test. We've already reached out to DPS and to schedule that work, just to make sure that there is adequate fire flow in the existing 10-inch line that runs along the highway. Our stormwater report had analyzed various storm events, but we had left out the 25-year storm. So he asked us to add that information into the table. We did that. Bob also asked us to evaluate and just double check 2 existing drainage structures, one that's on our property. It's a catch basin here, and then at the end of the stripway in the southeast corner, there's another catch basin. We confirmed what our field crew had already found out, that this catch basin has no outlet. It looks like it's a dry well. There's no pipe coming in or coming out. And then similarly, this drainage structure here, which is a catch basin that catches water that comes down the paved surface of the stripway, also has no outlet. And when you look inside, it's clearly a dry well that just accepts the water and infiltrates into the ground. Mr. Langley wanted us to memorialize that. He also asked us, as we move forward to the next step, to do a calculation of the sewer flow of the new use compared to the old use, and if there's an increase, we'll be responsible for some I&I fees. He was requiring us to supply a full set of as-built drawings after all the work is completed before receiving a certificate of completion. And then he also mentioned to make sure that that we follow up and apply for our highway permit from SDOT, which is going to be necessary. And Mr. Langley's office will be involved with that because they are the owner of the utility. So they also fill out and sign the form in addition to us. So they're involved in the process. So the only remaining item is our work with the Department of Environmental Protection. After our first meeting, we reached out to DEP, to Bruce Bauk at the drinking water program at DEP. Bruce reached out to another woman from the stormwater program. And then that woman reached out to the person who's the head of the wetlands program. And we're waiting to hear back from the section chief of the wetlands program for the entire state to answer the question of, can we do stormwater improvements on the property within the zone A, even though the stormwater management regulations in the handbook say we're not allowed to, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And Bob and I have put our heads together. We've met, we've reviewed the plan, and we're just waiting to hear back from them. But we've committed to Mr. Langley that if DEP is okay with it, that we will add a stormwater management structure directed to an underground system of some plastic chambers. I sent him a sketch of what it might look like, and he would be happy with something like that, and we're happy to put it in, but we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So that's what we're waiting for. So that's where we stand right now. As I said, we're just waiting to hear back from DEP. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, if the board has any additional questions, where we'd like to go from here.
Dr. Waddle?
Mr. Chairman, through you. Who owns the stripway?
So isn't that a good question? That question came up, I think, at the last meeting, and Attorney Kelty was nice enough to speak up and help us answer it because his client owns the property out back.
Yeah, we each own to the center line. It's actually been the subject of a land court case. There is a land court decision, and I represent these folks, and we have no objection and have suggested that we'll work out a license for that encroachment on Stripway, because it's much, it's more than adequate in width to be able to service our lot plus the lot in front of us.
I was thinking of the access questions, actually. I see you access from Route 1, using that strip way and then also to the back of the property.
Yeah, that's right. We have one curb cut here.
But that one's out, right? The one you just drew is out only.
That's correct.
And the other one on the stripway is in only or in and out?
It's in and out.
Good.
There's a cobblestone little thing here that helps us separate and guide people coming in and going out. And so, we have an in and out here.
Okay.
So the question is, do you have rights
Yes,
in that way?
yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That should probably be shown as a note someplace if there isn't. And I apologize for being late to the party. I know this has been discussed previously.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, unless the board wants to continue. I did speak with Mr. Langley earlier this evening. He had not a chance yet to review the comments back. He did say though that he briefly looked at them. He said without writing a memo up that he's pretty confident with what the applicant said and what they're going to do. I think the biggest outstanding issue is that they've yet to meet with DEP to no fault of their own or the city. I think there is opportunity for the board to provide an approval, but I think that approval would need to be conditioned upon a few different things. Specifically, the items mentioned here tonight, the landscaping of the front strip, no, I guess not strip way, but the front right of way, the removal of the parking space as shown on this new plan, as well as no building permit to be issued until applicant to meet with Department of Environmental Protection. I think.
No. QT or?
No, these are folks at the
Oh.
drinking water program, stormwater program,
Oh,
and
because
wetland program.
Yeah. I would say, this project, Community Development Department, we didn't have an issue with this. They've done the things that we've asked for. I think, we want to see a use out there rather than the abandoned building right now. That being said, I do want to make sure that they're doing everything possible to manage stormwater out there, especially with them being so close to a water source. So I would recommend that this board, if they so choose, to vote to approve condition that no permit to be issued until a meeting is to be taken place with the Department of Environmental Protection. The applicant has mentioned that they will do anything. It seems like they will add in additional stormwater if needed, if it is determined that they can by the Department of Environmental Protection. Is that correct?
That's right.
I'm curious, do you happen to know between your discussions with Mr. Langley what he would be looking for if you would be allowed to do extra?
Sure. So when we met, we talked about his wishes to provide some infiltration on the site more than what's there today.
Yeah.
And so then I took that information when I went back and I was working on the revisions to the plan. I came up with a sketch that showed a treatment structure that would collect water coming off of the pavement because most of it flows in this direction. And then a series of underground chambers, 9 Storm Tech SC740 chambers, which are rather large. They sit up about this high and they're rather long, 9 of them. And I sent that sketch over to Mr. Langley, and he felt that was in line with what he was thinking.
Okay. I would just say it technically that would be a minor modification to the plan. I would believe you'd have to come back for an approval from the board if they also feel that would be a minor. But I would say that the Community Development Department is comfortable if the board was to vote with the conditions as I outlined. This project also does need special permit from City Council, so this is not the final say in this whole item either. It's the Con's Community Development.
We probably, when the motion gets made, we probably want to mention
All those.
Sorry, yes, and definitely mention, yes,
the memo
mention the memos
that
as
they
well, yeah.
addressed the issues with TPS memo.
But I would also specifically condition the note.
Yeah.
Told them the permit to issue. Also, don't forget, I would add in the condition that they also need special permit.
We would be in favor of all of those conditions. Thank you.
That's right. Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, you might have to.
Yeah, it's,
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the site plan for
Don't forget about your- get the meeting, get the
29, I'm sorry, 29 Newbury Street,
Very
subject to the following conditions: that the applicant meet with DEP to satisfy whatever requirements that are applicable to the project pursuant to DEP's regulations. Also, that the applicant obtain any other relief, including city council approval if necessary, and also that the applicant comply with all of the conditions contained in the DEP memo, I think dated May 18th, 2022, as reflected in the responses from the applicant's engineer dated June 16th, 2022, 2 letters of response.
2 letters. There's your, you've got both letters in there.
We have a second.
Second,
Sorry.
And no, with a building
No
permit.
building permit.
Yep, no.
And no building permit issued, so all those conditions have been complied with.
We have a second from Dr. Otto. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda, 55 Pulaski Street, map 53, lot 029.
Just before you begin, can I just say
Yeah.
something quickly? We have, some of you might have already received hard copies, but I do have hard copies here. If anybody wants to take some, I will let you know, I've been working with the applicant, as Jack's gonna probably state, they did come in front of construction review. This is probably the first of a few different meetings with the applicant. I have hard copies of the application here. Did not receive one yet. Does anyone else need one in plan?
You're welcome.
Tom?
oh, no, I just need one.
Okay. Roy, are you all set?
Yeah, I got, Joe has it too.
Excellent.
We both have
There's one more. We've met with the applicants. They came in front of construction review. There was discussions that were had with departments and items. I forwarded a memo to you from the Department of Public Services stating that this project will also need third-party review. We did invite the applicants here to this meeting this evening to give a presentation on this project and discuss any questions that they may have. The board or the applicants with the board. So the applicants are here. Mr. Feldman.
So you're on zero margin, correct?
Oh,
No.
sorry, we're on 55 Pulaski now. I totally
That's
forgot.
okay.
Sorry.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
On 55 Pulaski, we're still at that impasse as to whether or not we have the right to be applying for a special permit and whether. And I'm hopeful that I did see Attorney Khan in the hallway, and I was hopeful he was going to come in here and save the day. Nonetheless, that was not the case, and I know that Andrew has determined with Bob Langley that if and when we're given the opportunity to go forward on this, that we would undergo peer review. So if I were to be able to get the letter from the solicitor between now and July 7, all I would ask is, could we sign those contracts and throw this into peer review, even outside of a meeting, if we get the go ahead to do that?
I would recommend that. I think they, if the applicant, I would recommend that that would be fine with community development. I think that would just move things along if we
Right.
but if we get that letter from Attorney Khan, I guess the board, do you feel comfortable that rather than how it usually happens is give a presentation, then sign the contract with Department of Public Services? They've already since met with Department of Public Services, part of construction review. It's been noted that they'll need third-party review, that they were to sign this contract and get that started prior to coming and presenting. I guess The only issue, not really an issue, but point of concern would be the plan that would be presented and that I guess all of you have potentially just could change from their presentation, but much like most projects that undergo third-party review.
Question through the chairman to the applicant. So, just to be clear, is it true that you're waiting for an opinion from the city solicitor as to,
As to whether I can even make application to the city council for a special permit. Attorney Avenatti's pointed out 2 meetings ago that isn't it up to the city council as the special permit granting authority to make that decision as to whether I fulfill the requirements. Commissioner Talarico's trepidation has been from the outset. I don't feel comfortable signing off on your application for special permit. So when this matter came through site plan approval, Al sent a letter in which he stated his concern, and he opined that he didn't think we could meet the standard. But as I pointed out in my letter to Attorney Khan dated June 7, I believe that this is becoming a pre-screening process, which is patently illegal, and that it's up to the city council to make the decision about whether we qualify for a special permit pursuant to section 151. So that my letter is currently under review with the solicitor. I spoke to him 2 days ago. He was hopeful he would be able to meet and iron this out, but that didn't happen. And I'm just saying we can pick up a little time if he issues the letter that says, yes, go forward. We'll pick up a little time. It probably won't make us eligible to do anything on the 7th, but at least we'll be kind of moving forward.
okay, well, thanks for the long answer, but this wasn't exactly what I was gonna ask. So is this, the premise of this, the base premise is, I think that you have an existing non-conforming use
Yep.
on that land. And that it's like,
Residentially zoned and
Right,
there's a
and it's
restaurant
likely-
that serves alcohol in it, yes.
right, and it's likely, depending on the person listening to the argument, that, was it 19 units total?
20 total.
20 total, is likely less intrusive to the neighborhood than a full liquor license bar/restaurant.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Okay,
among
it-
other cases, I actually cited Valley High case, which is almost exactly on point.
Okay, and I guess the other thing is if we do agree to condition, to give you authority to enter into an agreement with Public Services, there's a possibility that money might get spent, and then you go to city council and not get approved.
Sure,
There's a possibility.
sure.
Okay, so there's
Think of,
no
think
skin
of
off the
13
city's
Coleman
back.
Street.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Oliver.
I have no objection to going forward, but I don't really think this board has jurisdiction over third-party contracts between DPS and applicants.
Yeah, I don't think it's more, I think it's Jack's less asking permission, more asking would the board be comfortable? I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think, I guess Mr. Langley would be acting on behalf of the board. But yeah,
Generally speaking, projects of this size in the last couple of years have gone to third-party review.
Right.
And so I'm anticipating that the size of this project would put us in that category. And apparently Bob said, yes, we would.
Okay.
So
of those items, Bob did not mention which ones are going to third-party review, but off the top of my head, I could believe it's probably the usual suspects is
Water, sewer.
sewer, stormwater.
Yes.
Potentially traffic.
traffic.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just the board without, because I was not at the 19th meeting, and now I forget off the top of my head. You did not present a full presentation of the application, rather just the presentation of the situation that you're in.
That's correct.
I guess is the board feel comfortable without reviewing it first to say, I think this needs to be reviewed as well, but I guess usually if they're reviewing all of the same usual suspects, then it should be fine.
I don't have a problem with that concept.
I think you're all set, Jack,
Thank you.
to work with
It
Bob
seems
on
like
that.
nobody else does either.
67 Pulaski Street, 0 Margin Street.
Yes.
That matter is my project as well. I'm here on behalf of the Pioneer Charter School of Science. And with me this evening are Deb Colbert, who just 2 nights ago was actually some other name. Deb Carlton, she was Deb Carlton 2 other nights. We had a neighborhood meeting, which I think that our project manager will tell you about, but we are proposing to build a charter school on property which is owned by the Baviars family, a portion of it, and the other portion of it is a portion of that land is in Danvers and in the Onion Town Grill. We're going to combine the 2 properties and build the charter school, Pioneer Charter School of Science. And my team here this evening is happy to walk you through how this proposal will work and further to describe the school and programs.
Just before we begin, I see that Burish is online, and so is Samuel Gregorio. Are they
Traffic.
gonna speak as well?
Yeah.
All right, both of them.
Samuel.
Samuel. All right, I'll unmute Sam. And then I have plans. Do you want me to pull up the site plan, or do you want me to? I know you sent me over some slides about traffic as well. Do you want those instead?
Can we pull up the school so that Hussein can?
Yes. Let me get to it quickly.
This is a lighting. Yeah, that's a-
The small
You know
one's
what?
the lighting plan. The massive
There's
set's
a
the.
small one. Yeah, I think this is good.
Come up and get nice and cozy.
There you go.
Nice small room. Deb Colbert from Hancock Associates, Hussein Para from the Pioneer Charter School, and
Dan
Dan
Barton
Barton.
from Mogul the Stefano Architects.
and Sam Gregorio, traffic.
Sam, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. Excellent.
Wow. this
Oh, that's
is-
good.
So what we're gonna do first is
Oh,
we're
you
gonna
got 'em,
start out and present the school and the school's mission. We're very excited to be here, very excited to be before the city of Peabody. We've been looking for a very long time for a location for this school. After Hussein talks, then we're gonna have Dan talk about the proposed school. And then after Dan speaks to the proposed school, I'm gonna run through the civil part of it. And then I know a lot of people are concerned about traffic, and so Sam's gonna take his time going through traffic. We fully understand that there was a letter presented by Bob Langley asking for peer review, and we're just hoping that peer review doesn't take too long. Hussein will start. Did you pull up his PowerPoint?
Is that the traffic?
Nope,
School Pioneer Charter School of
Did
Science.
you send that to me?
I did.
Oh, sorry. I gotta find
It's all
it
right.
now.
There were 3.
Do you know when you sent them?
Yeah, early today, but I also have them on a flash drive.
Okay, I only got traffic, that's why.
Okay.
The email before that one.
Yeah, for some reason it's only showing me the traffic slides. There's only the attachment.
But there was one more email before that from me.
That's the Wednesday one.
I know it was today. So,
Oh.
can that one work? Or no?
Okay.
older like a DLC.
Do you have any architectural elevations to
Yes.
put up here later?
Renderings that we put in.
Okay.
Hello, I don't hear anything or see anyone.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now, Jim?
I can hear that.
All right. I'm back. Sorry, it kicked me off the internet. I'm now back on the internet. Are we back live now on PAT? All right, excellent. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. I would go in presentation mode, but I don't want to screw anything else up, so I'm just going to leave it like this.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hüseyin Kara. I am Chief Development Officer at Pioneer Charter School of Science Network. PCSS is a network of charter schools started in 2007 in Everett with a K-7 through 12 regional charter school. The region for that school is Everett, Revere, and Chelsea. And the school started with the mission of helping students develop the required necessary academic and social skills for today's changing world. And we have emphasis on heavily on math and science programs, a college readiness program with a strong character education and with a strong parent teacher student collaboration programs in it. In 2007, it started in Everett as a middle high school, 7 through 12, 60 students in each grade. And based on its exemplary success, in a few years, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education awarded the school a second charter in a new region, that is Saugus, Peabody, Danvers, Lynn, and Salem. In 2013, the second school opened in Saugus as 7 through 12 school, replicating the flagship model. And in 2016, Pioneer 1 expanded to K through 12 and added a new campus for lower grades. And now it's a full K through 12 school. And in 2021, this approved an expansion for the second charter school in Saugus to become a K through 12 school. Since 2013, the one in Saugus has been graduating from high school and sending its graduates to very well-respected universities, including MIT, Stanford, Boston College, Boston University, all Ivy schools. And after the approval of expansion of the school in Saugus to become a K through 12 school, we've been looking for suitable sites and possible buildings for lower grades, either for K through 6 or K through 8, ideally K through 8. And after numerous search and studies in different sites in Saugus, in Peabody, partially in Danvers, we identified this site at 67 Pulaski and 175 Water Streets, combined 3.3 acres combined land. And we did all the studies if it's feasible for the school to expand in here. Peabody is a central location for our region. As I said, the region is Saugus, Peabody, Salem, Danvers, and Lynn. We get students from all backgrounds. Our application works with a lottery, blind lottery, and we always have way more than available seats in number of applications. For, let's say, 60 kindergarten seats available, we always have more than 500 students applied for those seats, and we take lottery to accept students. And as you may know, charter schools are funded by DESI. They have a special formula based on different communities. We'll talk about the specific project in details with our engineers and architects and traffic engineer online. But I will just do, if you don't mind, can you show the next slide? I covered that one. The next one is pillars of our academic program. If I want to touch base a little bit about that, our academic program is designed around heavily math and science focus. We have extended learning time in our schools. During the year, we have 195 school days. It's 15 days more than other regular schools, traditional public schools. And our school day is longer than the standing district schools. We run from 7:30 to 4:30. It's a long school day for students and for teachers. We use a lot of data to evaluate, to assess our students' performance, and we value the feedback from all sources, from students, from teachers, from parents, and we use the evaluation and data to continue the instruction. And our program is a college prep program. All students are from middle school all the way to high school. They are surrounded by college spirit, and college readiness is a big focus in our programs, in our school. We have after school and Saturday tutoring programs free for all students. If someone needs extra help with their homework, with their tests in the after school time or Saturdays, they can schedule actually tutoring with their teachers and with their tutors at school. And as I said, we have we have a heavy science program. That means as a graduation requirement, they have to take more science classes. And let's say science fair is a academic program that goes whole year, not like a few weeks. It goes whole year. Next slide, please. The school culture and student life in school is around, I can just briefly summarize that, around the followings: high expectations, safe and welcoming environment. As a small school, everybody knows everybody in the building. Student knows all adults know all students by their names, even families know each other. That creates a safe and welcoming environment. And we are expecting everybody work hard and respect each other. Parents are very involved in our school in their volunteer activities. Our teachers do parent home visits whenever they need, whenever they see like a purpose for to discuss students' performance. And our students have to complete at least 40 hours community service as a graduation requirement. We have like various numerous student clubs, and athletics program is strong as well. My son literally was crying when they missed the first place in soccer season this year. He was captain, but he's a senior now. And next slide, please. A few recognitions and accomplishments for this particular school, the one in Sagos. The school is designated as a school of recognition by Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in 2018 and 2019. And last year, in 2021, the Boston Foundation's Pozen Prize for Innovative Schools is awarded to Pioneer Charter School of Science 2. U.S. News and World Report ranks all the high schools in Mass and in the U.S. And the most recent report ranking is number 14. Pioneer Charter School of Science 2 is number 14 in that ranking. And the one in Everett is number 15. As you know, other school ranking metrics rate our school as 9 out of 10. And next slide shows some comparison in terms of SAT scores with a state average. The second from right is the state average, and there are a few other successful school districts. Their SAT math score average and Pioneer 2 and Pioneer 1 SAT math score average are shown in the graph. It's 2020. You may ask why not 2021? During COVID time, a lot of universities waived SAT, and many of our students didn't need to take SAT. That's why it's 2020 records. And the next slide is just a short list of some universities. Our graduates got accepted from Boston College, Boston University, all the way to MIT, to UMass Amherst, UMass, all UMasses, Yale, Tufts University. Those are some universities our graduates got accepted to. I'll be happy if to answer your questions, if you have any questions about the school, about the project. Our professional team will answer your questions.
You finished with that?
Yes.
Any questions to this gentleman?
So just a quick one on your presentation. So about 540 students. You said 60 per grade, 9 grades, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In this particular location, it's going to be 66 students in each grade.
I see.
Total maximum capacity
So how many
is
classrooms?
594.
How many classrooms is 66? Is that 3 classrooms?
Three
22 per.
22 per class.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Somebody else want to continue with presentation?
I'm assuming you have our file with building images.
I did. It stopped my internet, so unfortunately, no. Unless you can email them to me very quickly.
I could.
I have traffic presentation.
Can we move to traffic presentation while you try to email those?
Sam, I take it that's you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm also trying to email it too. So everything. So
I actually have the traffic came through.
well, I was gonna do the other stuff as well, but I'm assuming that you're
Okay.
answering me so you can hear me.
I'm sharing my screen now. So I take it your traffic, so let me know when to slide.
Sure. And thank you. And for just, I know no one can probably see my face at the moment. I apologize. I can't be there right now. I tried lifting off my daughter this morning and I threw out my back. So I'm sitting on a chair with the pillow behind me. So once again, members of the board, my name's Sam Gregorio. I'm the senior traffic engineer at TEC Engineering, our office out of Andover, Mass. This is actually the second one of the pioneer schools that TEC has helped out with. We were involved with the Saugus campus as well. So we're very familiar with the program, very familiar how the traffic operates for the particular schools and the interaction between the staff, parents, buses, drop off, pickup, and things of that nature. The slides that you have in front of you, I'll get into in a minute, but basically what they're going to do is they would show basically every 5 minute kind of interval and what would be happening on the site during the pickup and drop off time. But just to go over a few items, which would probably have gone over if someone else is going first, but I'll gladly bring some of them up. The school looks to have 594 students. So that's 66 per grade, as Hussein just mentioned. This particular campus would be K through 8. That's important to start off with because it's also important to note with that there are no student drivers. Anything that is driving to the school is either bus or parent. The traffic study that we had submitted to the city has actually an inflated number of basically vehicles that would be going towards the site. And why that is we're showing kind of that worst case of what would be the staff and then worst case of what would be the students. So we do expect that the campus would have 70 faculty and staff. The traffic study shows 85, but that's just because there's 15 administrators for the school program between all the schools that on maybe every once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks, might attend this particular school on that particular day. So when you see the 85, that's what that number is. On a daily basis, it's 70 for faculty and staff. We are also showing in our numbers for the traffic study 400 students being bused out of the 594. That's actually a low number. We do expect there to be more. The traffic study shows 400 because we're trying to show a condition. That one day that there's a massive downpour outside and some people get driven to school instead of maybe waiting for the bus. But we would expect actually 440 students to be bused on a daily basis. So we'd be looking at about 150 or so students actually getting driven. So with that, we have a very, very high sibling rate at our schools. So in our traffic study, we are actually projecting a low end of that, which is actually 25% of the students having a brother or sister also attending the school. So when we talk about the number of vehicles that would come to the site, it's not exactly one student per vehicle. There's going to be a lot of vehicles that actually have 2 students in them. So that even lessens the amount of traffic flow that we would be even projecting at this location. And none of our numbers actually even include the carpooling. That would even go further. So what the traffic study does is it looks at a couple of locations around the proposed school in addition to what's happening on site. What you're seeing on your screen now is basically what we're showing for basically what starts happening at 7 o'clock in the morning. So our school starts, I believe the exact time is 7:30. So what will happen is that is before Fenwick across the street is happening. And we will also end our day after Fenwick. So we're trying not to overlap their traffic. And that's, we have a longer school day. It kind of works out exactly how much conveniently with the way that school operates across the street as well. All of our staff members, faculty, and there obviously some people will be late, but the idea would be is all of our faculty and staff would be there before the students start arriving and leave after the students all leave. Again, there'll be the 1 or 2 that some people are late, but in general, you expect those 70 trips for instance, the staff to happen before you start getting to the pickup and drop off period. So the first slide that you do see on your screen is what happened, we see at 7 o'clock. And that's going to show, this is basically the layout of the site. So just to kind of walk you through what's happening on this particular picture. The red dots, there's a red octagon in there, which you can't kind of see, but if you zoom in, it's a stop sign. That's a temporary stop sign that gets brought out during pickup and drop off. That will help force people to stop at certain locations as they're driving through the drive aisle to make sure people can get out from where they might be stacked up and parked. We have the parking field to the right, or what would be the east, up against Water Street, mostly in Danvers, but partially in Peabody. And what will be happening on here is we will be having direct conversation with our parents and making sure that they arrive at certain times. And what they would do is they would be stacking in certain directions within this particular parking field. Right now, we can fit at any one time, and what we're showing here is kind of everybody's spaced out a little more than they probably would be in a queue, but 27 vehicles parked in that parking field to stack up to drop off and or pick up if it's the afternoon, and those are the later slides as we come in. In the morning, we stagger our arrival time, so the parents, some of them people are going to arrive at a certain time, some of them are going to arrive at a different time, and that's going to be organized through the school to say who's doing what. It's most likely going to be based on grades and what grades the student is currently in. And that's just, again, to further separate traffic. We understand that there are concerns with how pickup and drop off will operate to make sure no one backs up onto Pulaski and or Water. We don't want that to happen either. So we are purposely staggering our arrival and dismissal time to make sure we can get the largest period of time where people will be arriving, and therefore the longer you have, the less people are all coming at once. So as they stack up in this area, we start that drop off period at 7 a.m. The first three cars on I guess to the furthest left in this particular image that are blue, would all drop off at once. We'll have two people, staff members right there to help organize and direct where people are going to be going as they leave their cars. And we have other locations around the site. They're all the red dots that you see on the screen, where we are going to be placing staff members every morning to make sure that they can help direct the traffic, force people into certain locations to make sure that we can, again, keep people off Pulaski and Water. That is our mission. And that we say right now 5 or 6, that's what we think we need at the moment. If that needs to be more, we would make it more in order to keep, again, people out of that position. We do have a good amount of parking on site. You'll see all the green cars that are in this particular picture. Those are the staff members. Again, they're already there by the time the drop-off starts for students. But there's also what you see, a lot of empty spaces right on in front of the schools, 22 extra spaces up there. Those are generally for parent use. We don't necessarily want them to be used for drop-off, but in an emergency situation where we need to get people kind of more flowing into the site, they could be utilized. But right now, they're basically for if someone needs to drop off but go into the school as well, a parent, in order to do paperwork or something that might have come up, that those can be utilized for that longer term, short-term parking overall, but longer term more than drop-off or pickup. They are not envisioned to be used for pickup and drop off, but they can be in a situation where we need them to be in order to keep people flowing. So the way we have this works in each particular slide is kind of goes to a 5-minute interval. And what you'll notice here is you don't see buses yet. So I can talk a little bit about the buses. The buses will start flowing in a little bit later. They arrive at a more random situation. Obviously, it all depends on where they're coming from and how fast they were able to get through some traffic. But we will have 8 buses that carry those 440 students. They won't be to capacity. They could actually fit more if we don't need to use all 8 particular in any one year.
Sam,
Sorry?
can you wait a minute?
Sure.
Just want to point out that there's a separate access and entrance and stacking for the buses. This is an entrance over here just for the buses, and then the buses will be coming through here. There's stacking for 8 buses at this time. We're not sure if we're going to need all 8. We might need 7, but at this time we have enough for 8 buses here. And then this is just for drop off and for deliveries and whatnot. No cars from the school will be coming there.
Yeah.
Wanted a question.
Yes. Can you just, it's nice that you're showing your flow inside your property,
Yep.
but more important to this board and somebody watching on TV is how you direct cars and then ultimately, so teacher cars and parent cars, then buses.
Yep.
Do they, because there's nothing off-site here. There's nothing showing off your property. How do they get there? Which way are they told to come in? Which way are they told to go out? I think this drawing lacks that, because it's not there, so.
Right, so normally I would have done the presentation for the civil part, but we jumped to the traffic, but
Okay,
Sam can definitely talk to that.
all right.
There's a-
Well,
there's-
if you're saying it's in that other part, let's just not delay it and
Yep, no, but I want
watch
Sam,
this and.
right, and I just want Sam also to explain the reasoning behind the two entrances and Water and Margin and Liberty and Pulaski.
Yeah,
So,
once we understand it
Yep.
on 7:05, we don't need to be hearing about it again and again and again every 5 minutes along the way. We will
Right.
get it.
right. So Sam, can you just talk to the traffic study and what you did in order to evaluate the traffic flow to and from the school?
Sure. So we've projected out, the traffic from the site for the amount of parents, the amount of teachers, staff, buses, and how they would get to the site based on the population that we expect the school to have. So we have a general idea of how many students would be coming from Danvers, how many would be coming from Beverly, et cetera. For instance, I'll use Salem as the best example. Salem, we know we can only have 8 because of the caps that we have on charter schools and for population. So at a maximum, there might be 8 coming from the Salem area coming up Margin Street and past Gardner Street. Right now, we have the 2 main access points on the drape on the main drive aisle. One South Liberty, Pulaski, right at the town line. The other one right just north of the town line on Water Street. Right now, we are projecting them to be full access egress, turn in and out from both directions. That is done purposely in order, for instance, to minimize or remove completely any cut through traffic on streets like Dobbs Road to the south. Also, in addition to that, the more chance that people can have to get in at any particular point and any turning movement is the quickest you can disperse the traffic once they get off the site, and how, for instance, disperse the traffic, how they're getting to the site. So we don't want to pigeonhole everybody into one necessary entrance, where now you might be creating more of a queue issue on one particular street. The bus driveway to the south, I believe was just pointed out by Deb, is completely separate to the south along Pulaski. And that will eventually go up and curve along the front drive aisle, fitting 8 buses. So the buses are completely separate in how they access the site from the parents. The way we envision this working would be that as the buses, in the morning at least, dropping off, as they drop off, they go. We'll have the staff members on site and helping to direct the parents that might be in the drive aisle at that time in order to have the buses move out. And again, that buses will all exit out via Water Street. This will be the same thing in the afternoon as well. As they pick up students, they will all flow towards Water Street. Parent traffic as they enter the site will be able to use both driveways in order to access the parking area that's on the right side of the property. We have 3 drive aisles in that parking area. The furthest east 2 will be designated as one-way southbound during the pickup drop-off, with that last one being one-way northbound at the end. And so we'll be able to feed, again, those 27 at any one time. And as the cars move out, more cars can filter in. In the morning is when we expect to be the most amount of traffic for the site. And that's just because all the students theoretically would start at the beginning of the day. In the afternoon, it's less because we'll have extracurricular activities. Some of the students will not be getting picked up at the normal time. They'll be being picked up later. So the morning would see the heaviest amount of traffic towards the site. But even at that point, we would be projecting at that worst case day, 150 cars carrying children. But in reality, again, we know there will actually be more people being bused than that these particular graphics of the traffic study is showing. So we'd actually only expect it to be about 110 to 115 parents actually dropping off students at any one day. Again, staggered over different time periods, so we don't have everybody showing up at once. And being the charter school, being a charter school, and how we actually have this work at our other facilities is where parents have been really responsive on, if we tell you to show you up at this time, this is when we want you to show up. And we have more control over that based on the type of school that we are. in order to keep people again off Pulaski and Water Street, I know that is obviously one of the concerns, is we do have a lot of extra space on the main drive aisle in order to have people stack if we need to, or for instance, with the staff members that are designated around the site to direct people on how they should move and where they should move in order to make sure that they're not particularly blocking people as maybe someone drops off their student, those first three cars drop off the students, they start going. A staff member can stop people in the drive out to make sure they can get out quick. We don't want people getting trapped into the site as well. If a bus has emptied out their students in the morning, again, a staff member can stop the rest of the traffic, get that bus into the main drive out to get them out to Water Street as fast as possible. And that's one of the main components of having those people on site on a daily basis. From there, again, we've looked at, as part of the traffic study, multiple locations around the site, different locations, intersections, to see what our impact would be on that, on those locations. There are locations that we all know don't operate in the greatest fashion already. A lot of the things that we, with the traffic that we're projecting, based on, again, having to distribute both directions out of Water Street, both directions out of Pulaski, is that a lot of the improvements that only need to be done are really just retiming of the traffic signals that are out there. There are improvements already scheduled by Mass DOT down at the, I guess, the major intersection to the south here. That's Endicott and over Central Pulaski. Our study does actually talk about potential improvements at that location that could be incorporated by our development as mitigation items. Some of those items are actually already included in that Mass DOT project that is already projected to occur. I believe right now they are just past 25% in their design for that Mass DOT process. So from there, at any one time on the site, for that 15-minute block in the morning, these particular sites would have shown 75 cars during that 15-minute block. Less in the afternoon for that pickup, because obviously it takes longer for someone to pick up the student than it is to drop off the student. Whether it's trying to make sure the student gets to the car, make sure he buckles in before that car can leave, whereas drop-off's much, much faster. But in the afternoon, again, less things occurring because there's less students actually leaving in the afternoon because of the extracurricular activities. It's kind of divided now into not just two different dismissal parts, but also now you have even more because you have now the extracurricular after. So we're able to separate the students and the potential pickup of parents over a longer period of time to make it less congested on the site. That's the general overview in terms of that for traffic. I know there obviously will be questions, but I think it'd be a good idea for Deb to walk through the site to get a little more clarity that might happen for where things are and doorways, whatnot, for how people will be accessing on site.
Thanks, Sam. Did that file come
Thanks,
through,
Sam.
Andrew?
It did, yeah. You want me to pull
Thank
up
you,
the-
Sam. So I get the distinct pleasure of showing the pretty pictures for a moment. We'll spend just a moment introducing the building to you, and then we'll let Deb talk about all the technical aspects of the site. But we've been very excited to work with last year with Pioneer School. They're a fabulous organization, and we're very pleased with this particular piece of property. As we laid out the site, and Deb will talk about this more, we seriously considered the orientation of the building to make sure that we were going to have some very good exposure to plan for some future solar panels on the building. We also looked at where all the pathways were in terms of teachers and students accessing the building, because we wanted it to feel very approachable. And at the same time, in today's world, we have to be very mindful of security and how many portals we have to the building and how that's controlled and managed by the school. The high-level stats for the building, it's a little over 60,000 square feet. It is 2 floors. It is divided into 2 very distinct components that you'll see on your site plan. There's one long, narrow piece, which is mainly the academic school building. It's a single, a double-loaded corridor with stairwells at both ends. and off of it are classrooms. Most of the classrooms, about 25 in total, equal about 650 to 700 square feet. So they're large classrooms intended to be very interactive and robust and have adequate storage. And then there were some smaller rooms, offices, and some of the other support spaces that you typically find at school. Whereas the rear portion is a one-story cafeteria with a lot of glass. It ends up being on the southern side of the building, very intentionally, with some access to patio and usable space outdoors. And on the back side of that cafeteria is a modest scale gymnasium, which has just about a high school sized basketball court in terms of its overall scale. And that would be, clear space inside of about 22 feet high, at least, to make sure that it serves well for basketball and gross motor activities. As Deb will point out, there is that dedicated bus lane, and what we've made sure of is that the bus lane, as well as the plaza that everyone is going to be using to enter and exit the building, is of a very distinct material. We didn't want to have expansive areas of asphalt. We wanted to change to pavers and put in edging of different colored pavers, and make sure that we also had a strong curb between drop-off lanes and where people were walking. And then, as you'll see along the face of the building, there are a number of stone benches and other features that are intended to make sure that the pedestrian pathways, or the pathways that people are traveling to and from the building, are safe and secure. It's a very heavily landscaped site, and intentionally, as we were planning the building, we made sure that we had landscape hitting the building as often as we could. We made sure that there were places for bike racks and exterior lighting and those features, so that it's, it's a safe and welcoming environment. The building itself, again, 2 stories. These are some of the first images. We're still playing with materials and colors, but the idea is that we're trying to take a relatively efficient building in terms of its layout and construction and cost, and we're cladding it in a way that it will bring some life to it in terms of layering and a lot of glass, a lot of transparency. And we're enjoying the process of continuing to have it evolve and come to life. But if there are any questions about the architecture, I'd love to answer them. Again, these are some of the first off the press images, but we're liking the direction that it's going in.
Just a quick one.
Sure.
2 slides up. Drew?
Yes.
So is that glass
That-
lower section, that's the cafeteria?
That
The one
is that
behind
whole
is the gym?
cafeteria in the back.
And
then
behind is the gym.
you
It
can
goes up.
actually see the gym rising above
Right,
it
okay.
a little bit
And
higher,
that's,
with some clear story
like you
windows.
said, that's the south side, that jut out.
Yes.
Exactly. And the right hand, that trapezoid, if you will, where you were just pointing with your hand, that right hand side is that outside playground space.
Right here.
That's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
On pavers.
What's that?
I said on pavers.
But that's what was put in with the rendering.
Okay.
In fact, it's not been laid out, nor are those the play structures that we're thinking about. There's some landscape in there, but it's the building that's put on the site and the renderings at the moment.
Yeah. Quick question. This just made me think of it. Are you storing vehicles on site? Will you have a vehicle on site,
In terms of,
like this van?
no,
their
that's
van?
delivery.
no,
That's
that's a
delivery.
delivery. So in fact, this is a
Okay.
great image to focus on for a sec, Andrew, because you're seeing that dedicated bus lane off of Pulaski. So
So this is
in the
Pulaski.
foreground of that image is Pulaski.
Right.
And then the asphalt that's going in towards the right is a private entrance drive for service vehicles and buses only, and it'll be signed accordingly. And you're seeing a van that's backed in for a delivery at the building, or potentially, for trash. And then you're seeing the dedicated bus lane on the left. So those buses are not actually in the main driveway of the school in this image. They're in a dedicated bus lane before they round the corner and continue into the drop-off area directly in front of the front entrance in the plaza.
Okay. So this is, the dumpster will be back here.
Yes.
That's correct. And
Drive
there's
in
an-
here. We have, I think, as mentioned, we're gonna want to see signage, and we're also gonna want to see no parking or idling signage
Yep.
along here as well.
Sure.
We'll get into that.
Mhm.
And then that's, I didn't notice it on the plan. Are you gonna have signage, like Pioneer School or
There,
something?
there
like
will,
that?
and in fact, there's some on the building so far, and we've not really looked at a
Yeah.
signage program, but you see that some of the school, if any of you have seen Pioneer's logo, it's actually an orbital logo, and we want to integrate that. It's already designed into the plaza, and we'd like either a sculpture or something on the building that brands as well. We're expecting that there's going to be a Pioneer School, welcome sign on both sides, both on the Water Street side and the Pulaski side. And as it's hard when I'm not standing right up and pointing to things in the image, but what you're seeing here is your top image. You're looking from Pulaski towards the entrance of the building,
Right, this is
and
Pulaski.
you'll see on your site plans that there's a triangular glass portion of the building that sticks out that you're seeing in the foreground in front of you. And every time there's taller glass area at the ends of the building, there are lounges before you head into the stairwells that are your emergency egress. And if you don't mind, Andrew, slipping it up a little bit.
Oh.
No, just moving the image up. Your next image is looking from the other direction. So you've come in from Water Street, and you're now partially into the site, and you're actually beyond the parking area that Deb will point out, talk about in a bit. But you can see that where your granite curb is curving in, there is a band of pavers or different material. That's your dedicated bus lane and drop-off area. So that is separate from your clear 25-foot wide driveway that cuts between Water and Pulaski. That was very intentional. We wanted to make sure that there was always bypass capabilities to keep things moving while there's drop-off going on. If you continue to slide up, just to help get an image of where the views are. So this is actually on the rear side of the building. You're walking along the academic school building, and those doors at the end of the walkway are going into the cafeteria. And
The playground's over
the
here.
playground's on your left.
And this is parking and drop off. And this is also access for fire truck access.
Correct, which Deb will talk about in a moment. If you
Yeah.
continue to slide up, that's again looking at the beginning of the design for a playground area and that cafeteria and back, which is intended to be bright and light and feel like you're partially outside. And then this is coming back a little further with your back towards Water Street, so that you're looking at a direct line intentionally designed through the parking area towards the plaza for pedestrian pathways. And then your faculty parking is off to the left. And that's also giving us all that extra distance that we wanted for queuing of private vehicles or carpools that are coming into the site and keeping them off the main.
So this is where you're queuing cars and you're letting. when
There's a
kids
great
are
big,
drop off.
Right
big
here.
horseshoe loop that you saw in Sam's diagrams. Correct. Correct. And then we spoke about this, which is the lane.
Dan, that image shows us with the dedicated bus slip ramp, if you will.
Right.
And then when you come out of that at the front of the building and stay on pavers, but there's no longer that tree line in that front parking lot.
No,
Right.
no.
So I'll come out of that kind of.
That's correct. That's correct. So to that point, if you don't mind, Andrew, just sliding the images up so we see those buses again down at the service entrance. Right there. So I think, Jack, what you're talking about is that the island, the landscaped island that we have on the left side of the
That
buses,
doesn't continue.
that's a division between the bus lane and
And
Pulaski in order to have, landscape along the street. But then as soon as those buses round the corner of the building, then they enter into the realm, if you will, of the access driveway.
But it's distinguished, it continues to be distinguished from the parking lot because it's. being
Because
pavered.
we changed the
Right.
material very intentionally.
Yep.
So the buses
Correct.
are gonna come around the school. They're gonna queue along Pulaski and come around and then come to the front.
That's
And
correct.
this is Pulaski right here.
Right, and what's subtle is when Deb and I laid out that plaza and the driveway, we've actually placed the trees, those benches, et cetera, to where you want, and lighting to where you'd want it to be so that the buses, as they're parked, you can have children coming and going from the bus without coming out and tripping over something or hitting a tree trunk. It was both unintentionally. So with that, Deb, I'll turn it over to you and actually explain the site, but any questions beforehand just on the building design? No. Thank you so much.
All right, so if you skew up, why does it like mess up like that? All right, so we'll move up to the existing conditions.
Can you read those notes from there?
No, it.
Deb, why don't you
becomes-
read them all to us?
it becomes I know you all are tired, you all want to go home. But you know, I just, a quick overview, this is the Onion Town
Onion Town.
Restaurant, Water Street, Margin, South Liberty, Pulaski. This is the town line between Danvers and Peabody. Because the school is all in Peabody, we are getting all our services from Peabody. But in addition to that, there is wetlands in Danvers and there's wetlands in Peabody. So we're also going before Conservation Commission in both towns.
Which we were last night.
We've already been before Danvers Conservation Commission once, we've been before Peabody Conservation. We're scheduling a site walk with both of them at the same time next, I believe, Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We've already met with the neighbors, all the abutters. We invited them and we met with them on Tuesday. They were very receptive to the project, excited. You know, of course, everyone's concern is traffic. And so we've done a full-blown traffic study and I believe there'll be peer review for traffic. So if you slide up or down or whichever one.
Unfortunately, you have to put it overlay.
That's the demo plan. You don't need to look at that. This is the layout and materials plan. So this gives you a better idea of what's actually looking on the site. Here's Pulaski. We do have both ways coming in and out. And the same with Water and Margin. Done explicitly on purpose because we don't want to queue all of our cars at Water Street. We don't want to queue all of our cars at Pulaski. The only one direction is the buses. Again, because it's a private school, we're able to coordinate all of that parking, all of that drop off, all of that pickup. And we're able to talk with all of our parents about that. So this is the main school, 66,000 so square feet in addition to the gymnasium and the cafeteria. We do have fire truck access all the way around the building, coming through here, and then also coming in here. They have fire hose access to the back, and then this fire truck access here with hose around. We've already met with yes, and he's accepted of it and very happy. We've met with the police lieutenant,
Sergeant Harkins.
Sergeant Harkins.
But you met with Scott
Jim
Richardson.
Harkins.
Yeah, and he's fully aware of his concerns and I know that Danvers and Peabody are asking for no parking signs on the streets. That's something that will work out down the line. We've looked at stormwater. I mean, if you go to the grading plan, it's just crazy. You don't even want to look at it. It's very, very busy, but we're mitigating all the stormwater. We do have to raise the site slightly because it's a really, really low site. The groundwater is not very deep. So we're raising the elevation so that we can get above groundwater. We have our 2 foot of separation for infiltration. We're handling all of this groundwater for infiltration over here, and then we have a couple other infiltration basins. We've done landscaping plan, which I believe came out really nicely. We have buffer zones where we're going to actually put in a stock cut fence here so as to protect the wetlands and also protect our students and staff. Next. Again, there you go, crazy. Very busy.
Hey, Deb, I just want to point out that we're also solving a significant drainage problem that happens
Significant.
off of Water Street.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's also utilities, which we're getting from Peabody, which will be a sewer pump station that will pump down to, I believe it's Bishop Fenwick. And then there's the water we're picking up over here. I understand through the engineer that we are going to do peer review. You also, Peabody's ahead of the time. They have modeling for their water. They have modeling for their sewer. We're able to coordinate that with pumping schedules and pumping off peak so that we're not inundating your system. landscaping plan. We have a lot of trees, bushes, shrubbery. There's a significant difference of grade elevation here, which actually works to benefit the buffer, the abutters here, so that the school isn't going to appear to be on top of them. It's, this wall is, I believe, 6 feet in height. So we're gonna have some plantings and then also arborvitae's here. This is a commercial property, but these residents have buffer zones away from the school, which will be good. This is the owner that we're actually buying the property from. We have, again, buffer zones around them with evergreens and trees, and then also landscape on both sides to give that buffer from the streets. And keep going. I don't know what's left. This is oh, you don't want to go that far. Run down, and this is just showing fire truck access. I know that was fast. I just wanted to know that you guys have short time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I know it's a lot to take in.
I have comments from community development, or we can do questions first if you would like.
You got Dr. Otto?
As I understand, we don't actually have architectural plans and elevations, is that correct?
We have them as of 45 minutes ago when you emailed them over to me, so I can, I'll put them in the digital
Great.
online package for everybody.
Just a couple things. And I don't know how rules differ for public schools, excuse me, versus charter schools. So no sports fields required here?
No,
Just sports activities conducted in the gym?
yes.
Okay.
It's
And
K,
run a
it's,
small outdoor space.
right, but it's K through 8.
Yeah,
and-
no,
Yep.
I understand.
Yep.
Just asking the question.
Yep.
So you're, I don't know, 3 or 4 other existing schools?
Correct.
It would,
3 other campuses.
right. What have you found in the impacts to the public schools in those cities so Everett and Saugus? Clearly, you take children out of the public schools to fill yours, I suspect, right? That's kind of obvious.
Right.
Correct.
So they have a financial program. The state has actually worked a much better situation than when the first charter schools came out. Before, when the first charter schools came out, they just took the funds and gave it to the charter school.
Yeah,
Now-
I'm not.
Oh,
really-
you're not really worried about the money?
Well, no, I'm not, that's not my purview, could be purview of somebody else, but,
Yeah.
no, I guess I'm, in some way, it could be perceived that this might help overcrowding in an elementary school in a given area
Yeah,
by pulling some up.
definitely. And improve the situation at the public schools, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess you,
Our interaction and impact with the local school district is different from towns to towns. Let's say Everett is a overcrowded classroom district, and our taking some students from them is a relief for them. On the other side, providing a choice in terms of program, academic program, is something parents and a lot of residents like to have in their neighborhood. On the other side, another interaction or another impact to the local schools, local public schools, as you might know, the charter schools, as mass charter school program, is a lab for public school system to try and disseminate to other schools. And successfully, we have shared best practices with local schools in the past years in the communities we serve. So there are various ways we interact and we help each other with local schools.
I have a question. Is this going to serve Saugus, Peabody, and David?
Saugus, Peabody, and Danvers.
Saugus, Peabody, Danvers,
Salem.
Salem, and
Salem
Lynn.
and Lynn.
And Lynn.
5 towns.
Is it, I don't, maybe you said this, but is there a requirement that to be eligible for enrollment, you have to reside in one of those 5 cities?
Any Mass resident can apply, but these 5 cities residents have preference to be admitted first.
You said it's done by lottery. How do you,
Done by lottery.
how do you? give
We take all
preference on the lottery?
applications and we do lottery for the sending districts first from 5 cities. And if there is available seat for others, we do another lottery from others. Before that, the very first chance is given to siblings.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board?
I'll just bring up concerns that community development has. It was brought up at construction review. Applicants are aware. We're just very nervous, as well as police has mentioned as well, with how traffic will be entering and exiting the site. 27 cars, and this is probably for a little bit of Sam too. So 27 cars will be able to be stacked. You did seem to answer it. Those extra 120 plus cars will just have to show up at different times. I take it they get different times. I guess our biggest concern is the entrances from both sides. So I'm dropping my child off at 7:05. I come in this way. I pull into the queue. I come out. I guess you can't see what I'm doing here, Sam, but I'm showing where you would come out. And I guess this is for Deb or anybody else here. What about the people entering off Pulaski Street that are going to wait to queue? And now you got a line of cars coming here. And I foresee gridlock happening because you have entrance and exit from both sides of the site. So not only do you have parents pulling in here and queuing, but you're gonna have parents entering here, but also simultaneously having anywhere between 7 and 8 buses trying to pull out as well. I guess our biggest concern is about gridlock on the site.
Sure, and I can get into that. And just for the record at first, at least when I'm looking at this, I don't know if anybody else could see the same thing. I'm not seeing anybody at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like our owl, which we're using, decided not to stop working. But you can still hear us, so that's good.
Well, it's good. My name showed up on one of the screens, so at least they know who
Yeah.
I am. So yes. So again, I first want to mention that the traffic study overestimates the amount of cars that would be on site for the pickup and drop off. So when we say, like on those slides where you see 150, we actually only expect that number for the drop off to be basically, let's say 110 to 115. And that doesn't even include the fact that we do expect some of the students to walk, bike, and none of that is taken into account yet in our traffic study because we want to show, what's that worst case traffic situation. That's what the traffic study is looking at. For the site itself, we had mentioned that one of the things that we are doing is making sure that we stagger the arrival times for whether it's particular grades at the moment and how that gets divvied up. I believe it's going to be by grade, like let's say K through 4 comes at one period, 5 through 8 comes at the other, in order to make sure that parents know that there can only be, this is your arrival time, don't come till then. And again, as a charter school, we have a lot more control of it. You're back. I can see you again.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
I noticed that you estimated 30 seconds for a drop-off per vehicle.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that having to be true is significantly going to affect the speed with which the queue moves through the area and vacates it so other cars can come in. Where did you arrive at that 30 seconds per drop-off? I know from personal experience that kindergartners tend to take a lot more than 30 seconds to get ready to get out of a vehicle.
Yeah, and some of this is based on averages, and there is no good, I guess, overall like federally standard number or anything like that. And I guess that's where I'm trying to put it. There's no federal, so it's based off of experience of what we see kind of on average in school. And again, that pickup number is a lot faster than the drop-off number is a lot faster than the pickup. So we recognize that. So the drop-off we expect to be much longer, just because you have to see that's your car particularly. Although we have a little more organization to say, like, we obviously know your car's coming up. We have the staff in the site to say, like, okay, these are the kids who are going to be coming up next, things like that.
But the drop-offs are coming through
the parking area. And the center lane, for lack of a better word, of the parking area is, it seems to hit a dead end. And how do you, people coming in off of Water Street in that first lane, and they go all the way around to the exit in the third lane, but the center lane seems to kind of run into the vehicles that are queued up on the perimeter. of
Sure,
that
and-
area. You know what I'm saying?
So, no,
And then you had a staff member at exactly that point showing on one of the drawings that I saw.
yes, and
How do you keep it flowing?
sorry, and our intent is to have a staff member at the top there where people start flowing into those lanes in order to direct cars. Basically, you go here, to make sure, one, it's always flowing. If that staff member needs to say, okay, you keep going down the drive aisle for a moment, maybe to send you to one of the parking spaces, then that's what he's going to do to make sure, again, we don't want to block the drive aisle either. We want to make everybody get off of Water, everybody off of Pulaski. We also have, again, that person stationed at the end of that middle drive aisle. I think that's the first thing you had mentioned, in order to say, like, okay, hold up, let this guy flow in. So basically you're trying to get like an alternating down the lanes. Yeah, an alternating down the lane effect. So we always we want to keep it moving. That is our goal. And we also, unlike some schools, we are going to let more than one car drop off at a time. So we have the way we have the sidewalks and the crosswalks, for instance, entering that parking lot, and the way they're structured and where we'll have people positioned is basically to try to get 3 cars to drop off all at the same time, so we can get 3 cars out of there quickly after that time frame where they drop off, and therefore, again, to keep the cars flowing through. Sorry, and
Sam, just to continue, do you mean the 3 cars at the end of the lane closest to the school, or you mean the 3
yes.
cars that just happen to match up with the crosswalk?
So it'll be those first 3 cars you just mentioned at the top of the school. You'll see basically 2 red dots. Now, if you're looking at one of the slides, I'm not sure what you're looking at the moment, so I might be just talking randomly if you're not looking at that particular slide. But but at the on the westernmost drive aisle, which will be the one that heads back towards the main driveway for the school.
We just.
Excuse me. I have a question from the chair here. Have you done any traffic count studies on both Pulaski and Water Street as to how many vehicles are currently percentage-wise increase?
The traffic study does show counts on each of those roadways based on the locations. Now, there's no count directly in front of the driveway, for instance, because you get cars which slow down, so we don't get the correct speeds, for instance, when we do our counts. So we have counts at the intersection. Sorry, go ahead.
Currently, you have an estimate of how many cars are traveling currently right now on both of those streets?
So right now,
On the time.
right now on Margin Street, for instance, give me a second. This is in the traffic study, but I'm looking up the page. In the morning, Margin Street, just north of the site. So this is basically this intersection of South Liberty. But in the morning, there's no really, and the bowling alley is not open, so it's not really any different in traffic. 574 cars going north, 521 going south. Afternoon, like commuter peak, 590 going north, 915 going south. Through that area. On Pulaski Street, it's obviously a lot less. So about 200 to 300 in each direction in the morning, and about 250 to 350 each direction along Pulaski in the afternoon. And those are the peak hours of the day, so it's only less during any other hour of the day. So our traffic study does show an analysis of operations at each of the driveways, for instance, utilizing those volumes, and therefore what the queues going into the site, out of the site would be. So the good thing about, again, us staggering our times for pickup and also, for instance, having the teachers come all before and then leave all after is to spread out the traffic as well naturally. So it's not just everybody. So if you're thinking about off the site now, not everybody stacking up to get into the site either, all at the same time. We want them all to be spread out, and that's the way we're going to try to. We will organize it with the parents as they try to arrive in the morning or pick up in the afternoon.
Thank you.
I will add that at the construction review meeting, it was discussed that we asked the applicant to provide or to work with the police department on circulation, traffic, and to provide a memo that has been vetted by the police department with what is going to take place. Peculiar situation, it sits between two cities. The police departments are going to have to juggle that one. Another note, this is just kind of minor, it was shown on the traffic. We did ask, the police department did ask that they would not double vehicles lined up and down the side here, which would add more vehicle queuing. The reason for not having double is the police wanted to make sure that they could get a police car down this in case if there was a medical emergency in the queuing line. But again, this is a ongoing, this is dynamic at this point. Plans could change, they might not, they will need to go under peer review. So this was just a first presentation and provide comments and ask questions.
And just to follow up one other item with that you had just stated, we do intend actually to put together that memo for the police department. The traffic study does have about 2 to 3 page right now version of the operations pickup and drop off. We will obviously provide some more detail in the version that will go to the police department. Now that will obviously be on the public record when it gets there. We wanted to make sure that we don't have the memo today only because we wanted to make sure we got as much of the feedback that we did from this first meeting from the public and the board, just in case there was something that right off the bat we would have to change. We didn't want to just completely say something that would be wrong to the police department if it was just going to change. So.
And the intent also is after the school, right, Sam, after the school is open, a couple weeks, we'll be able to tweak what's happening out there and then also possibly look into timing, which I think the school is offering up, the timing of the lights in either direction.
Yeah, and as mentioned, I think our biggest concern is just the queuing of vehicles on Pulaski and Water Street that are trying to enter and exit that site.
It's a percentage at specific time of
Yeah.
the number of vehicles that are being increased on those streets. And if that's in the traffic study, is the percentage upgrade to the vehicles at the specific times. They're trying to balance them out. So whether at 7:05, there's 55 cars going by and you're increasing by 6 cars. You know,
I guess I'm more concerned about though that if you tell, I don't know how many cars you're going to tell, 75 I think I said per drop off period. So they're selling 75 families. You show up at 7:05 and you can only fit 27 vehicles in here. Where are those other vehicles going to be waiting to pull in? That's our concern.
Yeah.
So then you're either stopped on Dobbs, you're stopped on North Shore, you're stopped on Water Street. I did see you had sorry, Sam, you can't see what I'm showing here, but I did see you had a staff person that was at the drop-off point, a staff person that was right at the first entrance into the parking lot. I take it that person's going to be alternating, you go, you go, you go. I'd almost want to see an extra staff person at the corner waving people on that are going to eventually just say, oh, I'm next, and I'm going to just pull off onto the side of Water Street here. So
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
these would be items that we'll have to work out.
it was actually the intention to have that one up at the top do that. But if for instance, if it's an issue, like let's say that again that first 2 weeks comes in and we see that's an issue, we add the other staff member. It's not an issue. That's not actually an issue for us. It's we don't want them to be doing that either. So, and just to go back to that last thing that
No, I think.
Sorry, something that the chair had mentioned. The study itself doesn't have the direct calculation of the percentage increase, but we can definitely give you that as part of the peer review responses. So it does give you the total volume versus the old volume, but the actual percentage number is not physically written into the report, but we can give that to you. That's not an issue.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Chair, I did want to mention there's a couple members of the public here as well. I know this isn't a public hearing, but they are here as well, if you want to ask if they have any comments or not. Are there-
They have a spokesman, or are they?
There's two.
There's two members.
Two members?
School committee member Griffin Dunn being one
I'd
of them.
be happy to have them come up and state their name, address, and their concerns.
Thank you very much. Beverly Griffin Dunn, 10 Colfax Street, and I'm a school committee member, resident of Peabody, and I will tell you that my biggest concern, having attended the Tuesday night neighborhood meeting and hearing of the traffic plan and seeing the site, I'm very concerned about safety. One of the biggest problems we have at every single school in this city is the traffic at drop-off and pickup at every one of our schools. It is the most, it is the heaviest use we have of police, where we have to call them to come in and take care of the problems on site and surrounding the schools. The neighborhoods are all subjected to problems with the traffic on our sites because of the overflow of traffic. I appreciate the plan, but I will say that it is the most optimistic traffic plan I have ever seen, and I have run into this before. You folks know me. You don't. I've been involved with the schools for 25 years, and I am a 19-year member of the school committee. I am now heading up my second building committee for an elementary school and having completed the building of the middle school. The traffic plans, no matter what you put in place, depend upon the fact that everyone is going to follow what the traffic engineer put down. I asked a question Tuesday night, and again, I heard the very same answer, that because this is a charter school, their parents behave differently and that they will follow the rules. That's wonderful, but I know it only takes one person to mess up the traffic. If this were a public school within my purview, I would be objecting, as I have in past years, to my fellow members and other superintendents. I would never allow a school in Peabody to be built on a main street after what happened with the Brown School. That, to me, is very similar to this situation, because you have the potential of pedestrians, children, crossing main streets. Now you've got two main streets with two-way traffic. There are no sidewalks in that area. There are no crossing, no crosswalks or anything. And I know there will be improvements to the area. There will be people who walk to this school from Peabody and Danvers. You're putting in bike racks. People ride bicycles. They're not in a vehicle. The queuing in the parking area, to me, is very dangerous, because you've got children who, granted, you're going to tell the parents, do not let your children out until you are near this specific area. When mom and dad are running late for work, they stop the car where they can, tell their children, get out and run. And I've seen it where you're lucky if some people will stop the car. Some people roll and let their kid jump out. I appreciate the fact that you have said the people who attend your school are different. I'm going on my experience at 10 different schools over 20 years as an elected official, having worked as a parent with traffic control at an elementary school. It is very difficult. And no matter how many people you have in that parking lot, it's only going to take one person to mess up your traffic plan. I'm very concerned about it. That's a very small area for a school. And the activities that go on a school property, I do like, the building looks beautiful. And the idea of having a separate bus lane is a good one. But again, the driveway on this building is gonna be two-way. People use Dodd Road to avoid the traffic at the corner. This is basically parallel. What's to stop someone from driving through there in the morning when they want to get around the traffic at Pulaski and around the traffic on Margin Street? I also know any change in our bus routes, our bus stops, the timing absolutely involves the police with our traffic department and our transportation department. And it does not only impact the area around the school. They have to look at the entire city. So right now, when we do bus routes and bus stops, any variation involves big discussions on where will the impact be in that specific area as well as other areas in the city. And the police can address that a lot better than I can. But the timing of traffic lights would not only be dealing with Fenwick, you're dealing with other schools. And those of us who live here know that traditionally you'd always have bad traffic in the morning. You might be able to wait till maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock would be the bad time. Now, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. You better get your work done after 9 a.m. and before 2 p.m. Because after that, you're going to sit in traffic all over the city. It is a huge, huge issue for the community. And I do think that this is going to have a negative effect without the appropriate system put in place for traffic controls and traffic safety and pedestrian safety. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Said,
I guess it's up to the board if you want to. I guess there's no real constructive grant with site plan, but you have heard it, so we will see you at.
I just have one comment, if you indulge, more of a question. I'm sure you've already exhausted this. It's just kind of curious why there's a pretty significant size vacant lot. It seems as though the owner is not interested in selling.
Correct.
That's
Is that true?
Yep,
Yep.
that's right. Yes,
That's a shame,
yes,
because that could have,
Yep.
yes.
it could have still been, it could have increased the footprint of the property, but it also, some of it could have been used to create a buffer. Because I know you
Yep.
mentioned that it's a buffer. It's a buffer right now until the owner decides to put something there. And just like you guys have the right to build something on property that you're gonna secure, this person has the right to build something on that piece of property, and I see it as very, very unfortunate. But
There's
still
been much
understanding that everybody's got the right to either decide to not sell or decide to sell, so.
Just to clarify, you guys are going to do a fence along that side as well as buffering with shrubs and such.
We have not decided fencing on that side just yet.
Okay.
You know,
That's further down the road.
I guess community development would want to see fencing there, especially with a school, and then who knows what that parking lot use potentially one day could be. And again, your play areas right here. I don't want somebody wandering by accident.
it's a parking lot. It's a parking lot now,
Yeah.
but someday something will get built there. I think. I really do believe so. The other thing I was gonna say too, and it was mentioned here, I'm not sure who mentioned it. I know the same person owns this particular parcel of vacant land, as owns the bowling alley, and maybe there's a way that these folks can enter into some sort of a mutual agreement where the bowling alley isn't open, and maybe there's some minuscule compensation or whatever, that if there's 20, 30 to 40 cars that your people who are coordinating this, and I'm sure the 5 or 6 people that are in your parking lot who are probably teachers playing double duty, right? They're parking lot monitors at one point in the day, and then shortly thereafter, they might be teachers, they might be custodians, or whatever they are, are using cell phones. So maybe there's a way to keep 20 cars from queuing by sitting in that vacant bowling alley parking lot. But again, it's private property, and just throwing out ideas.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. I think that our clients have exhausted and had numerous conversations with both owners.
Mhm.
I think that the conversations will continue.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea in regards
And
to.
who's to
possibly-
say that bowling alley doesn't turn into a little after-school sports
Of course.
facility where, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Who, yeah,
Just
whatever.
one question, just one answer in regards to the fence. So this is fenced off in here, all the way around, but we will look at putting fencing up abutting that property. In regards to the peer review, are they given times or deadlines in regards to?
That is that's
responding?
I would reach out to Bob Langley. He's
Yeah.
taking care of that. Where he's at with that, I couldn't tell you. His department will take over with the peer review items. If it's like anything right now.
I would say my experience is they're pretty quick.
Yeah.
But no, they're not given, specific.
Right.
Water's usually pretty quick.
Yeah.
They have our modeling and everything, so that doesn't take that long. Stormwater, I mean, I guess it goes to them, goes back to engineering, comes back to us.
In your perfect world, when do you when would you think that you could open the school? Obviously, you're not gonna open the school.
September 2024 in the perfect world.
Okay,
We might miss this year.
only if you build it, Jack. Okay, September 2024.
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
23.
23,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your
23.
presentation.
23.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
Very
you all.
Very in-depth. It was very nice. Thank
This is
you.
the public
Yeah.
instruction.
Thank
so
you.
Like a year and a quarter. Year and a
a
third.
year, solid year, yeah.
Other matters properly before the board?
I don't think I have anything for anybody. We are coming up to the summer months here. So if you know you're gonna miss one of the upcoming planning board meetings, if you could tell me as soon as possible, that would be greatly appreciated. As a reminder,
I will be able to make the 7th,
all right,
even though I'll be out of the hospital in time to come here.
We can zoom you in.
yeah, you can zoom in. Don't forget as well, there's just one meeting in July. So July 7th.
Was it August as well, or just July?
I always thought it was just July.
Just
that
July
was
is
one
what
meeting.
it is.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's, I would say with the amount of things on our agendas right now, maybe don't want to skip that many meetings, because we had the hard time going till midnight last night, so,
Yes.
but, the next meeting as well, we'll be back upstairs. There is a public hearing on a zoning change, but you guys have received that. So.
Can you?
Okay, at this time, I'll accept the motion.
Motion.
We have a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Emily.
Thanks for your insight.
Thank you very much.